Meet some new students from Year 3 Volume 1. Is she Amasawa's sister? Is she related to someone we know? That might be the case since I found some interesting things in the previous volumes that might help reveal the identities of these two girls. And I might just debunk a few popular guesses along the way. So stick around, grab some popcorn and let's dive in. But before we discuss them, let's talk about Year 3 Volume 1. It is going to be released on March 25th, 2025, about 1.5 months from now. And as per tradition, we have been graced with a color illustration from the upcoming volume, and there might be more in the future. So if you want to stay in the loop for any future reveals, and trust me, you do, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. You don't want to miss out. Alright, let's get to the good stuff. The identities of these characters. Are these the new first years? Well, on initial expressions they do look like first years. They definitely give off that fresh faced I am new here vibe. So they seem young, but since it's a fictional story, ages can be deceiving. You can't really be 100% sure, but the thing is, their chances being from, let's say, former Sakai Iragi's class is kind of low. Like if they were characters important enough to have a color illustration on the first volume of Year 3, then I think they would have been introduced by now. And I will admit they could be second year students. There is nothing in the picture that could disprove that, but considering the context that new students will be coming this volume, it is a high chance of them being the first year students. So what can we know about them for sure? Maybe that both of them will fall in love with Ainakoji, because it isn't caught if that doesn't happen, but I hope it's not the case this time. Keeping the harem aside, it looks like they are near or inside Kiyaki Mall. As you can see some sky but also the windows, so most likely it's inside Kiyaki Mall where they have like the top windows so you can see outside, and their clothes also point to this fact. I mean, to be honest, not a lot of places to go inside Advanced Nurturing High School, so it's obvious where they are. Now let's get to the main point, their identity. Can we guess that? Are they related to someone we know? Let's find out. First I will start with this blonde girl. You know, when I saw this illustration for the first time, who she reminded me of? Ichinose. I think it's the hair for the most part. And well, what do you know? She has a little sister who would be about the right age to join a high school, and she would definitely want to go to the school her big sister went. Plus, now that Ichinose has become a very important character after what happened in Year 2 Volume 12.5, it is possible that her sister is introduced now. However, Ichinose doesn't have blonde hair. You would expect both the sisters to have the same colored hair, unless Ichinose is adopted, you know. So going by the hair color, I don't think they are blood related, or for that matter not sisters at all. So the chances of her being Ichinose's sister is quite low. Although imagine if they are sisters, like through some plot twist adoption method, and she also falls for Ayane Koji, which almost every girl in this series does, and then we see what happens between Ichinose and her. Now that would be some spicy drama. But keeping that aside, what more possibilities are there? Nagumo's sister? That sounds like fun. She could very well be his sister by looks. I think most people would like to see that, but we don't have any evidence to support this. So who else do we know that is blonde? Yuki. No, she can be anyone except Yuki, and that's because of several reasons. First, Yuki would be the same age as Kiyotaka, and looking at her, this girl definitely looks younger. Also, Yuki didn't have any mole on her face, which this girl has. But I have to say, a mole does not prove it exactly, because sometimes you develop moles later in your life, which could have happened. But I'm just saying that it's unlikely. It is more likely to be someone new than it being Yuki, who developed a mole or who made a fake mole on her face to see if Ainakoji would recognize her. That's not happening. She's definitely not Yuki. So if she's not Ichinose's sister, not Nagumo's sister, and not Yuki, who is she? Maybe she's just a new character or related to someone we haven't considered yet. I'd love to hear your theories, so drop a comment with your thoughts, and while you're at it, subscribe and like the video. Alright, now let's talk about this second girl. You know who she reminded me of? Yeah, you are thinking right. It's Amasawa. Like that senpai smile, that's very Amasawa coded. So I started thinking, could she be Amasawa's sister? And I have two answers, and hear me out on this one. The first answer is no. Specifically, she is not the half-sister. Allow me to elaborate. In Volume 0, we see that Mr. Amasawa asked Katsuomi to have another kid in the White Room, and this kid was from his girlfriend, not wife. So eventually that kid was added in White Room, We don't know the gender, but we know that kid was a half sibling to Ichika Amasawa. That's because it was also mentioned by Mr. Amasawa that his girlfriend just wanted to give a birth to a kid in Japan, like for an insurance type of way. She didn't want to raise it or anything, just giving birth to have his kid. That's what clued me in, that Ichika Amasawa is probably from Mr. Amasawa's wife. Because if Ichika was from the girlfriend, then the girlfriend wouldn't have gone to have another baby. So now that we know Amasawa has a half sibling who is in White Room, let's see why it's not possible to be her. The information that we have on when the half-sibling of Ichika Amasawa was born is in the meeting that happens in Volume 0, which was almost 9 years after the first generation of White Room was started. And we know Ichika was in the 5th generation, which puts her half-sibling at like 4 to 5 years difference, which makes the half-sibling currently 12 to 13 years old. And that is no age to be in high school. Does she look like 12 to 13 years old to you? Maybe in anime years, but I see no point of White Room sending her if she is so young. What is she gonna do? Especially after Atsuomi said he will not do anything. I mean, he can still send White Room students, but why someone so young? I don't see it happening, but let me know what you think. Now the second answer that I have is maybe. Maybe she is Ichika's sister, but like real sister. As we know, Ichika is a test tube baby and her father does not care about her. But it makes you think, why a test tube baby? Maybe Mr. and Mrs. Amasawa were trying for a baby but did not succeeded and hence went for this method. But that begs the question, does Mrs. Amasawa not care about Ichika at all? We know nobody came to Ichika in White Room, so is it that both parents don't care about her, or is it because there were 2 test tube babies and one is with Mrs. Amasawa and that's why Ichika was kind of abandoned? For example, it is possible that Mrs. Amasawa might not even know that there were 2 babies and only know about one. Why? Well, Atsuomi once mentioned that sometimes they take one of the siblings in White Room to test the education, so who is to say that Atsuomi wouldn't want one test tube baby out of the 2 in White Room? Like, it's pretty clear that Mrs. Amasawa would be the one that wanted a child because Mr. Amasawa doesn't care. So if Mrs. Amasawa was the one that wanted a child and there were 2, then it's possible that Mr. Amasawa was like, I only need one because of my wife, so you can keep this other one with you. And I also just think that Mrs. Amasawa would want a child close to her for like insurance, just like Mr. Amasawa's girlfriend wanted one. So maybe she is Amasawa's sister, although the possibility is still quite low since we are only going by looks. Speaking of which, there comes a third possibility. Look at this character with the mole at the same place and all. She is from former Sakayanagi's class, current Ayanokoji's class, which is important now, and it goes without saying new characters from the class would be introduced. So are you thinking what I am thinking? And it could be somewhat possible because in the latest afterward, Kinugasa sensei said that most of the focus would be on the same year battles now, just like how it was in the first year. So who knows, same character with different hairstyle or sister of this character? Since they are in Ayanokoji's class, that makes them somewhat important, and if they have siblings in first year, that could also be somewhat in play. So another possibility, albeit a really small one. Overall, the only thing confirmed now is they both are gonna get raised up by Ayanokoji. As for their identities, I am pretty sure it's not going to be Yuki, also not going to be the half-sibling of Amasawa. And of course, these are not Horikita and Kushida like some of you have been saying to me in DMs. Like, no, they didn't change their hairstyle. No, it's not a flashback from middle school. Like, can you even imagine this expression on Horikita? Like, even in middle school? No, that's literally not possible. And no, they are not Sai and Chi from the past for the very same reason. So let me know your thoughts. Nagumo's sister? This girl's sister? Amasawa's sister? Like, who do you think they are? Also, soon I'm going to release a video to show where to read Year 3 Volume 1, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.